Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Eagles taking on the Chicago Bears in Chicago this afternoon at 1 o'clock. You could take in all the incredible game action right here at the Gallery Bar Book and Games at Ocean Casino Resorts. Gallery Bar Book and Games. And welcome in to the JAKIB Media pregame show. Marc Farzetta along with Eagles Hall of Famer Seth Joyner and, of course, veteran Eagles reporter and host of Sports Take right here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, Mr. Derek Gunn. We've heard a lot this week about the Dallas Cowboys, but go figure the Dallas Cowboys are not on the Eagles schedule this week. In fact, it is the Chicago Bears, the 3-10 Chicago Bears. We've heard a lot about trap games this week as to whether or not the Eagles are going to fall into that trap coming off after a dominating win over the New York Giants, taking on the Bears and then another divisional opponent in the Cowboys. So, Seth, I want to start with you talking about this team and the term trap game. Nick Sirianni was asked about it earlier in the week as to whether or not trap games are real. So, in the spirit of believing, do you believe in trap games, Seth?
I don't personally believe in trap games. I just think that, when you overlook an opponent, it's because of the week of practice that you had. If a coach wants an indication of how well a team will play, 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, you can look at, how they practiced that week. If they were sloppy, a lot of repeats, too many corrections on stuff that you really know because you've been running it all year, that's what leads to the mental lapses in a game and the momentum swings against a team that you really should beat. As far as, the Eagles looking ahead, I don't buy into that because you're practicing for the Chicago Bears all week long. You're looking at their offense, their defense, their special teams. You're looking at all of that stuff. So how is it that you look ahead, to the Dallas Cowboys when your focus all week has been on the Chicago Bears? So no, I'm not a big believer in it. I'm a believer in, what you put on the field and what you do during the week. Your preparation sets the stage for how you play on Sunday. All
right, Gunner, I am normally with Seth. I don't believe in trap games, especially when you have a team like the Philadelphia Eagles that are always laser focused on their opponent week in and week out. But when you look at this particular matchup here, all the conversation has been about Micah Parsons going on the Von Miller Voncast, as it's called, brought to you by Bleacher Report, and he's talking about how Jalen Hurts basically isn't that good. Can that be a distraction? And do you think it will be a distraction to this Eagles locker room?
Absolutely not. But I guarantee you one thing. It is stored in the back of their minds because instead of, coaches always tell you, when we get a win, let's enjoy it for 24 hours. They're going to enjoy this win for like 24 minutes, and then all the onus will be on the Dallas Cowboys. I think this Eagles team does an incredible job of maintaining an even keel mentality. They don't look too far ahead. They don't get caught up in the big moments. They don't get caught up jaw-jacking back and forth with the opposition. Let your work show, your wealth. Now, you would think Micah Parsons, who was a no-show the first time around against Dallas, against the Eagles, would basically keep his mouth closed and just get ready to play the game because you got a tough game today against Jacksonville. Okay, so you better make sure that you're focused on playing Jacksonville before you come worry about the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm like Seth. I don't believe in trap games. A good coaching staff does not allow their team to look any farther than the next opponent. Plain and simple.
Well, that sounds great. Oh, go ahead, Seth.
By the way, I didn't see the quote. What did he say?
What was Yeah, it's been all the rage. It's been all the rage this week, of course. The other thing we could talk about today, aside from the off the field intangibles, the on the field intangibles are a big deal today, considering you're going against a guy in Justin Fields, who we've talked about running backs being the core of a team that you're taking on, all the focus being on a guy like Saquon Barkley like a week ago. Obviously not 100% healthy going into that game against the Giants, but certainly made up for a lot of their offense before that game. Now you're facing a guy in Justin Fields who is the number one rusher of quarterbacks in the NFL, averaging 74.5 yards per game. How do you stop Justin Fields, Seth? And is it any benefit that the Eagles are going to have a guy like Jalen Hurts that they're preparing against all week long for months at a time? Does that help their preparation for facing Justin Fields?
Well, I mean, I would assume it should help a little bit, but at the other end of the spectrum as well, I believe that it's going to create some problems for the Eagles, because the same things that the Eagles use to, hurt offenses are the same things that, that they're going to face today from a defensive standpoint. Like Jalen Hurts, when Justin Fields has the ball in his hands, you're one man short, on the defensive side of the ball. Wouldn't be beyond me to turn and look at the Chicago Bears and believe that they might extrapolate some information offensively from what the Eagles do and apply it to the Eagles. Listen, he's a dynamic runner. He's been a better passer over the last 3 or 4 weeks. He's been a better quarterback over the last 3 or 4 weeks, Justin Fields has. It was a rough start for him, but everything seems to be slowing down. His problem is he doesn't have a whole lot of weapons. His tight end, Cole Clement, he leads the team with 5 touchdowns. Now, when your tight end is leading the receiving corps with 5 touchdowns, you got some offensive problems. And when your quarterback, has had to rush for 905 yards, to your point, 75 yards a game, he's your leading rusher. When you have that combination, you got some offensive problems, some offensive woes. But the Philadelphia Eagles, listen, they just got to do what they do. They're not going to be threatened on the backside. So if I'm coordinating this game today, my game plan is to live in 5-man as much as I can live in 5-man, even in third and long, even in long situations, because with a 5-man rush, you're more able to keep him in the pocket in the 5-man rush than you are in the 4. Because if the 2 inside tackles aren't talking, if they're not consistently talking about, how we want to rush and where our rushing lanes are, what kind of stunts we're running and things like that, you find these holes. And once he gets out, if you're playing man, he's a handful.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, Justin Fields going to be the focus. Obviously, Jonathan Gannon going to be trying to contain him in the pocket and not let him run wild. How much of a concern will he be today against the Eagles?
Well, the one thing I've seen him do quite frequently is when he starts to float outside the pocket, defenders converge, and all of a sudden he's got a guy standing wide open on the backside of the field. So the Eagles secondary has to be disciplined. Yes, you have to keep one eye on this guy, but make sure you know where your man you're covering is at all times, because that has been like a bread and butter play for them for much of this season. If the Eagles play sound defense, they shouldn't have a problem containing Justin Fields. When you look at how devoid of talent that this team is right now, Darnell Mooney out, the number 1 pass catcher. Chase Claypool ruled out earlier this week. Khalil Herbert, the second leading rusher on this team, is out. And then you look on the defensive side of the ball, leadership. Roquan Smith, gone. Robert Quinn, gone. So, and I looked up and down their roster. They're playing with a bunch of 5th, 6th, 7th round picks in a lot of cases. I think the highest draft pick playing on the offensive side of the ball is Cody Whitehair, who was drafted in the 2nd round back in 2016 to be their center of the future. Now he's playing right guard. So that tells you how beat up this team is.
Certainly, very, very beat up. One thing that we need to get into is the injury bug that unfortunately has bitten the Eagles just a little bit in recent weeks. It looks like Reed Blankenship not going to be a participant in this game. And Dallas Goedert, who was they opened up the 21-day window to allow him to practice. Many thought, myself included, he was going to be up and ready to go for this game. But that is not going to be the case today, Gunner. How concerned should I be about the injury to Dallas Goedert maybe costing another week?
Do you think the Eagles need Dallas Goedert today or on a short week down in Dallas?
No. But my only concern would that be just get him one game under his belt before playing the bigger game.
You want to put him in a situation where he could get hurt?
Well,
before
no,
he plays
but
that
you
game?
can get hurt any week.
I understand that, but they know the magnitude of that game coming up. Now, the tight end position has been more of a vital entity in the offense over the last couple of weeks. Let Jack Stahl and Calcaterra continue to do what they do. This Bears team has lost 6 games in a row for a reason, okay? I don't think you need to put Goddard out there for this game. You got a short week coming up, okay? Get that man ready for what's to come down in Dallas. It's all hands on deck next Saturday.
That certainly says when you look at this Chicago Bears team, one of the things that the Eagles have consistently brought up when asked about the Chicago Bears and not Micah Parsons this week is the fact that they, in 6 games this year, only 3 wins, unfortunately, for them, but in 6 games this year, 1-score games that they have lost. Jordan Mailata used the word dominant to describe the Chicago Bears. When they're only 1 score away from winning a lot of these games, they're for the most part a dominant football team. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with that because dominant teams tend to win games. What do you make of the close game scenarios, Seth, when it comes to the Chicago Bears?
Well, listen, I give Jordan Mailata a whole lot of credit, about how he dealt with the Micah Parsons situation this week, and understanding you don't want to throw any fuel on anybody's fire by saying what he said, but it's a flat-out lie. The Chicago Bears are not a dominant team in any fashion. The only guy that's dominant on that roster is the quarterback, but unfortunately he can't do it all by himself. I don't know. I mean, I can't tell you why. I've watched film on them. I've studied them. I don't know why they've been in so many close games. Maybe because, Justin Fields, like I said, has played better. The first 5 games of the season, he was absolutely, horrific. I think there was a whole lot of wonder whether, he could actually be the guy long term. And then all of a sudden something just went off. I mean, it's there. That's the hard part with these young players. It's in there. The talent is in there. But a mind that's in, constant, data processing, a mind that's, consistently thinking and trying to decipher, when things aren't just automatic, it's really hard for your body to just do what you've supremely trained it to do. And he's a supreme athlete, there's no doubt about it. Once the game slows down and he starts to understand all that he needs to understand and they give him some help, he's going to be a heck of an NFL quarterback. But I think it's his ability, to make plays, especially when they get down, they can come back or, not from large margins, but they can keep the game close because of how they play the game.
All right, coming up in just a second, Gunner, why this game is the perfect game to talk to Mr. Seth Joyner. The absolute perfect game to talk to Seth Joyner. But coming up, we want to hear from one of our fine sponsors here, Thrive Financial Services, their amazing retirement playbook. Here's a message from our great friends at Thrive.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Coming up a little bit later in this segment, Thrive Financial Services will also bring us John McMullen live from Chicago, our NFL insider from the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, and also welcoming our friends at 6abc.com. Seth, this is why this is the perfect game to talk to you. I don't know if you read the paper. I don't know if you see the clicks. I don't know if you see the websites. But people like to talk about your criticism of Jonathan Gannon. Gunner, you've heard about this. When it comes to Jonathan Gannon, his defense leads the NFL right now with 49 sacks going into this Week 15 matchup against Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears defense, really headed up by their head coach, Matt Eberflus, you're looking at a defense that has the fewest sacks in the NFL. Is it a matter of attempts? Is it a matter of blitzing percentage? Is it a matter of aggression, Seth? But if you were covering the Chicago Bears, what would you be saying about that defense and that poorest sack total?
Well, listen, we live in an era where, aggressive defensive football, is really a thing of the past. There are a few teams that are as aggressive, and I know the statistics, some of the teams that are more aggressive, are some of the worst teams, in the league, not only from the standpoint of defensively, but as an overall team. But at the other end of the spectrum too, the teams who don't blitz that much, who play really soft, they've got offenses that average 25 points and up. Listen, I played on really bad defenses before, and I played played on really bad teams with bad offenses before, and I've played on teams, with an offense that led the league in scoring and so on and so forth. Let me tell you something. It's a hell of a lot easier to play defense when your football team is averaging 30 points a game. You don't have to be as aggressive, as you otherwise would have to be, because you're trying to make some things happen. Right. Now, that being said, I'm just of the mindset that an aggressive style defense is always beneficial to you, because especially in a game like today, what wide receiver do they have that you really fear? So if you don't really fear them and you got two guys that's in the running for the Pro Bowl, why wouldn't you turn those guys loose and let those guys do what they do? And I get it. The front four has been getting pressure. The Chicago Bears offensive line isn't that. But you don't want to give a team any kind of hope whatsoever. And when you pressure the quarterback, that's when you get the turnovers. I give you a classic case in point. If you go back over the last couple of weeks, tell me how many. Now, the sacks are up. The Eagles have 13 sacks in the last 2 games alone, okay? But how many turnovers do they have?
0, I believe.
No, they got 1.
They have 1. Okay.
They got 1. They got BG's sack.
Oh, right.
Sack fumble last week. Well, maybe 2. Josh Sweat's the week before on the first series. Okay, so my point is that defensive coordinators and gurus always talk about the importance of turning the football over. Well, if you don't create enough stress on offenses, then you don't get the turnovers. Like, you don't force the quarterback into throwing a bad ball that turns into an interception. If you're not throwing the ball on a consistent basis because you're behind, okay, the defensive line doesn't have the luxury of just rushing, because what you have to do is you've got to earn the right to rush the passer by shutting down the run. But then when your offense gives you a lead, now you just pin your ears back and go get them. So my thing is, how are you stressing offenses, and how are you creating, turnovers, strip sacks, interceptions, whatever it is that you have to do, those things come via applying pressure. And when you're not applying pressure, even though you might get the sacks, then it's all good. But the problem is, if you're not a team that's inclined to be aggressive, when you get to a point where you have to be aggressive, then it becomes problematic. And everything is really easy for this offense and this defense right now. They're just running through teams, at an alarming rate. But when you get to after the bye week, that divisional round, and when they get to the NFC Championship, I can assure you they're gonna face a situation where they're gonna need to bring pressure. And if you're not practicing it, if it's not a part of your repertoire, that's not something that you just turn on at any moment in time and have any belief that it's going to really work. You might call it as a defense coordinator, but if you haven't, if your team doesn't have that kind of mentality, it's a tall task.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of mentality, Seth, when you look at this defense, Gunner, you have a quarterback right now in Jalen Hurts facing a defense that the Chicago Bears are bringing to the table that don't really pose much of a threat in terms of being aggressive. And not only that, it's not like they're taking on the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line every single week. So how comfortable can Jalen Hurts be sitting back in the pocket as the number 1 passer right now in the NFL? How comfortable can he be when in that pocket against this defense?
I think the Eagles offensive line is going to keep him clean more so than anything. I think he's going, if he wants, put up decent numbers, big numbers against this Bears defense. The Bears defense doesn't present a lot of pressure up front. They're playing a lot of young guys who basically the Bears are analyzing and studying to see if they are part of their future. Excuse me. Only thing is, don't get too complacent. That's the main thing. Don't get too complacent. Get in there, get your business done. I can see this being a game where Jalen Hurts spends much of the fourth quarter on the sideline.
Well, listen, this is how I feel about, when you're playing teams that you're supposed to beat, in my opinion, the most important thing you can do is come out and jump on them early. Get on them right now.
Yeah.
Discourage any thought that this could be a complete 60-minute game right now. Because if you do that, you're a bad team for a reason. They're 3-10 for a reason, okay? Now, that quarterback is going to keep playing until the clock says 0-0-0. That's just the way he's wired. But, you know, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, they are trying to build something here. And it's going to take them time to build that mentality. Some guys are going to have to go. You're going to have to bring in some new guys that believe in and buy in to, you know, what they're selling. So some of those guys, listen, their U-Haul and their trucks are already packed.
Yeah.
They're waiting for week 17 or 18 to get here so they can get the hell out of Chicago and get down to Florida where the weather's nice, okay? The best thing the Eagles can do is get them one step closer to getting out of Chicago. And you do that by jumping on them early and often, put the game away, leave no doubt about it. Don't do what the Colts did yesterday. Good Lord.
Oh, my goodness. The toughest thing for a coaching staff that's ultra competitive is to know you're going into a game week in and week out and you have basically no chance to win a game. Mm-hmm. You know how much that eats at a coaching staff? Because no matter how much you try to strategize, you know you're playing at a deficit to begin with. And you just have to grin and bear it in a lot of cases. And hopefully, from a Bears perspective, they do the right thing. They sit back when the season is all said and done, thoroughly evaluate everything on that roster, and improve the clientele of talent significantly in 2023.
To continue a conversation there about the Bears defense, Milton Williams on the Philadelphia Eagles with 3 sacks would be tied for the lead on the Chicago Bears. The Bears have one player with 3 sacks in former Penn Stater Jaquan Brissett over there in Chicago. Brisker in Chicago there, where the Eagles have 6 players with at least 3 sacks on the season. Now we're going to head out to Chicago to get more on this matchup with our friend John McMullen, who is out there right now. John, I'm going to go ahead and lead it off with this, my friend. And Jalen Hurts doesn't like it when he doesn't get asked about the defense that he's about to face. So, John McMullen, what should I fear, if anything, when coming to this Chicago Bears defense?
The cold. It is cold, Mark. 19 degrees right now. There's going to be 13, 15-mile-an-hour winds. So I think more than the defense, I think it's the cold that is going to be the story of this game. It limits you. Let's be honest. Now, you saw the snow game last night if people were watching. So it's not like you can't get things done. But I do think you start to think about defaulting to the running game. So, you know, Miles Sanders has had 2 career rushing yard performances over the past 3 weeks. Maybe we get 3 in 4 weeks. Jalen Hurts and obviously Justin Fields are both going to be big in the running game as well. In a lot of ways, that's all Chicago has offensively.
Hey, John, being a Midwesterner, I can tell you 19 degrees is a heat wave this time of year in the Midwest.
I know. I used to live in Minneapolis, Gunner. But, you know, 32 in Philadelphia, and it's a lot different than how cold it gets out here.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask you this because I said this off the top of the show. Some people thought it was eye-opening that Dallas Goedert is not activated for this game, and I said, well, do you need Dallas Goedert today, or you need him more so next Saturday on a short week? They don't need Dallas Goedert today. They do need Dallas Goedert down in Dallas, though. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. But I'm a little surprised at the same time he's not active because, you know, Dallas said 2 weeks ago that he was ready to go, and he didn't even think he should have been put on injured reserve because he thinks he could have returned before the 4 games. Now, he's not a doctor. You know, he had a small fracture in the glenoid in the shoulder, it's called. Those things have to heal. So they take time. Even if you feel good, they have to take time to heal. But there's no doubt to me the Eagles are this is opponent driven. They can say whatever they want to say. If it were Dallas this week and Chicago next week, he'd be playing. So I agree with you. This is opponent driven, and they're giving Dallas Goedert an extra week.
So, John, I'm looking at the statistics here from the Giants from last week, the rankings, and the Chicago Bears this week. You know, when I was prepping for my show this week, I was researching the Eagles' play calling. Last week they ran 22 pass plays to 9 run plays in the first half, and then they flipped the script and ran 22 run plays and 9 run plays in the second half of last week, or vice versa. I may have it screwed up there, but you get the gist. The Giants were ranked 11th against the pass and 27th against the run. The Chicago Bears, well, that was Chicago. The Bears were kind of similar, 218 yards passing, 141 yards rushing. And the Bears are ranked 27th against the run. What do you see from a game planning standpoint? Because I thought it was pretty genius what they did once I saw the numbers, that they came out and they threw the ball all over the map in the first half, and then they came out in the second half and decided we're just going to run the ball down your throat with Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders.
Yeah, and a lot of that is game-driven, Seth, and that obviously, the Eagles are like a lot of modern teams, and they want to throw to get the lead, then they want to run to close the game. And that's sort of what happened with the Giants. They had a big lead, obviously a blowout game, a rout. So it gets even as you get the second half. You try to drain clock. You try to get out there with the win. And they're very effective both ways. I think the same thing holds through in this week. But remember, the conditions play into it as well, as I said. So to me, it looks like a running game. It's always a running game from Chicago's perspective. You talked about their defense. Their offense is they're number 1 because of Justin Fields in running the ball. They're number 32 in passing the ball. So they're first in running. They're worst in passing. But defensively, the Eagles feel like they can do what they want against this team, to be honest. And I think they'll lean on the run. The one thing I will say about Chicago, they do have some good young defensive backs that have some talent. Now, they're still learning. They're still going through their startup costs and all that kind of thing. But Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, they've been injured. They'll be back. So they have a little more athleticism, a little bit more juice on the back end. And at least if you make a mistake, those guys can hurt you a little bit from what they have been playing. So just something to keep an eye on.
John, one of the things I know we talked about when I was lucky enough to be a guest on your show, 365 with Jody McDonald, earlier in the week was the diversity, really, and the versatility of this Eagles team. And we also talked about the focus. And I think it shouldn't be lost in a season where A.J. Brown has over 1,000 yards, Miles Sanders has over 1,000 yards, and Jalen Hurts is right now, according to a lot of sports books, the odds-on favorite to be the MVP of the league. Is that one of the most impressive things about this Eagles team, I think, this season has been their laser focus. And because of that laser focus, when it comes to this particular team, I don't believe in the idea of a trap game surrounding this team. I think their focus has been one of the most impressive things we have seen from them this entire season. Do you think that will play in today in how they'll be able to handle a Chicago Bears team like this ahead of a Dallas Cowboys game?
Yeah, I mean, look, Mark, I don't like to call them trap games. I call them human nature games because coaches hate the word trap. So anytime you say the word trap, and Nick Sirianni got asked that Friday, he's like, no. I like to throw out human nature. It's human nature to look past this team. I mean, this is the worst team in the NFC by record. They don't do things that well anywhere. The defensive line is weak. I mentioned all the issues they've had in the secondary. The Eagles have been able, at times at least, to dominate really, really good teams offensively any way they want. I've asked so many different people, what do you do to stop this offense if you're a defensive coordinator? Where do you start? And I get a lot of different answers. A.J. Brown. All right, stop A.J. Brown, or you try to stop. They go to Devontae Smith. When Dallas got her this healthy, Quez Watkins has stepped up. Miles Sanders in the running game, I just said, had 2 career highs over the past 3 weeks. And then you have Jalen Hurts with 32 touchdowns, despite with Chris Sims and he's the MVP of this league as we talk today. They're a very, very difficult offense to stop. And all that said, they're going to have a lull today. It's human nature to look past this team and start thinking about Dallas. But I don't think Chicago has enough talent to take advantage of that lull. So you might see some sleepwalking moments. You might see some, what are they doing here? What are they doing? But ultimately, they're going to win the football game because Chicago doesn't have enough horses.
John, do you see this as a game where a lot of your starters could be sitting out the bulk of the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I mean, I think I asked my buddy Ed Kratz, what is that song, the Todd Rundgren song? I forgot who sang it. They don't want to work. They don't want to work in the fourth quarter. And I haven't recently in a couple games, and this is another good chance. The only thing I question again, and I go back to the weather, because anytime you have a weather game, it might be a little bit closer just because of that. But this is the worst team the Eagles have played all year, and I say that understanding they played the Houston Texans, but Chicago's banged up. They have all these issues. Chase Claypool, they bring in, they get a little bit of juice. He's not able to play. They don't have receivers. They put nothing around Justin Fields. As long as you keep Justin under 200 running, it should be easy.
Hey, John, I want to focus in on Jalen Hurts. I'm surprised that Mark and Derek hadn't even brought up, the comments by Micah Parsons this week. And I get it. They play him next week. My commentary or question goes more to, Jalen Hurts and the disrespect that, that he's receiving, not only from, people like Micah Parsons, but, guys like, Chris Sims and so on and so forth. The thought, John, that, that there's a such thing as a system quarterback. I was thinking about this and I said, isn't every quarterback a systems quarterback? If you're having success, that means that coaching staff has identified a system that works best for the skill sets that you present, okay? And they're going to put you in the best position to succeed. What other quarterback in the NFL, John, do you go and get and bring in here that runs this offense as effectively as Jalen Hurts runs it, okay? I mean, what else do you want? They're third in total offense, okay? They're 14th against the pass because, they're so balanced. If you go back and you look, they actually run the ball 51% of the time, and they only throw it 49% of the time. So then you can kind of understand why those numbers are where they are, okay? They're second in the NFL, in rushing, 162 yards per game, fourth in third down conversions, okay, and number one in points per game at 29.3 points per game. What the hell is everybody chirping about? This kid is the MVP, hands down.
Yeah, I agree, Seth. About 2 weeks ago, I said, no, he's the MVP. Now, there's still time to go. He can still lose it, but he's the leader in the clubhouse, in my estimation. I think, people like to talk about things in a vacuum that don't exist. In other words, if Patrick Mahomes had the same talent, would he do better than Jalen Hurts? Well, it's a worthless exercise because it's never going to happen. Nobody has the exact same situation. So to blame somebody for the situation they are in is kind of comical to me to begin with. I mean, do the Eagles have a good supporting cast? Yes. I've said they have the most well-rounded roster in the NFL, but Jalen Hurts is a big part of that. Jalen Hurts is the on-field leader of that offensively. Jalen Hurts is sort of the crux of all those numbers you just mentioned, all the top, number one, top fives in all these categories. It's all about Jalen Hurts, and it's about how he runs this offense. Now, is the offensive line great? Yes. Is the receiving group great? Yes. Do they have a great tight end when he's healthy? Yes. The running game has been better. I don't care if Patrick Mahomes could win 9 games with a bad supporting cast. He might be able to do that with his unique skill set. But what does that matter? We're talking about Jalen Hurts as the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, and right now they're 12-1, and they probably should be 13-0. I mean, you got to give the kid his credit.
John, before we let you go, we want your official prediction for this Eagles-Bears matchup in Chicago.
Yeah, like I said, Mark, I think there'll be a few moments where people are rolling their eyes because I think the human nature aspect comes into it. But I do think the Eagles are just too talented, as I mentioned. Ultimately, they'll start to pull away. I have it 31-15 Eagles.
31-15 Eagles. Love it. John McMullen, our NFL insider for the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, and those watching here on 6abc.com as well. John, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
John McMullen, brought to us by our friends at Thrive Financial Services. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about how Jalen Hurts can attack this defense, and if the Eagles are going to fall by the wayside in this game, what they would have to do in order to lose focus. More
Not
JAKIB
happening.
Media pregame show coming up in a few.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
Welcome to Pondley Hockey. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pondley Hockey a call.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Number 1, Jeff D'Ambrosio. Destination Downingtown is rolling back prices for a December to remember. For a limited time, you can own, not lease, brand new 2023 Jeep Wranglers for only $30,995 or $339 per month. New Rams starting at only $30,995 or new Ram 1500 Bighorn Crew Cabs $189 per month. Zero down can deliver. Get the price you want, the selection you need, and the VIP treatment you deserve. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, Big Finish Sales Event.
Welcome back to the JAKIB Media Pregame Show, along with Derek Gunn, Seth Joyner. I'm Marc Farzetta here from Ocean Casino Resort from the Gallery Bar, Book, and Games, where there's a huge crowd on hand, not just for the Eagles game, of course, but the World Cup going on. France trailing right now, Argentina 2-0 right now. But a lot of people talking about Jalen Hurts ahead of this game, as you would assume, in the MVP favorite right now, according to many sports books across the country. And when you think about the improvement he has made so far this year, a lot of people before the season talked about his inability to throw the ball downfield, his inability as a passer. He was too much, like we might talk about Justin Fields this year, of a runner. Well, it seems like Jalen Hurts has certainly changed a lot of minds this season. And when I think about what he has done this year, gentlemen, I think about that improvement, how he's the number 1 rated passer right now in the NFL. And Seth, you rattled off a bunch of numbers to support the idea of him being the MVP this season. But you also talk about what jumps out to me is the yards per attempt. One of the biggest knocks, and it was brought up to him after the Eagles took care of business against the Giants last week at the Meadowlands. A big knock on his game was his inability to throw that deep ball. Now, one of the number 1 passers in the NFL when it comes to that deep ball, 8.1 yards per attempt. That jumps off the page to me when you talk about the improvement he has made this year as a quarterback.
Well, listen, he's going to get better. There's no doubt about it. And for those people who thought that he wouldn't, all you had to do is go back and look, and I know it's the NCAA. I get it, it's college, okay? But look at the leap he made when he left Alabama and went to Oklahoma with Lincoln Riley for one offseason, okay? The kid is hell-bent on being the best quarterback that he could be. And, he was trying to transition from the college game to the pro game and understand the multiple looks you're going to get. Not only are you going to get multiple looks and you're going to see some defenses that you've never seen before at the collegiate level, but teams are going to disguise and they're going to try to trick you. So until you see all of that, until you understand how teams can disguise things and on a week-to-week basis you understand how to go through your game plan and decipher the information that you need to decipher, it's hard to play that position. Because not only are you responsible for your job, you're responsible for all 10 other guys on your side of the ball, understanding and knowing where they are and what they're supposed to be doing, from protection to wide receivers out in the routes, from blocks to where the running back, should be hitting the hole, to, understanding and trying to decipher pre-snap within, a 10 to 15 second window, what the heck the defense is doing. That's a lot for a young quarterback. So his mechanics were off, last year, trying to get all this information in his head. Spent the entire offseason getting it right. So now that, he's got another year of experience with his eyes and what he sees and what he deciphers, now he's cleaned up all the other things that made him such an inaccurate, bad quarterback, last year. And the fruit of his labors is what we're watching, and the thing I don't understand is why can't the people who said that he couldn't and wanted to stand on that pedestal or bang the table about what he could not be, now that he's proven your ass wrong, stand up and admit it and say that, you know what, I was wrong, okay? And give this kid his props. He deserves that. Every other quarterback, when Mahomes lights it up, oh, he's so great. When Josh Allen, oh, he's so great. All these other quarterbacks, we talk about how great they are. And we're looking at one of the greatest seasons for a quarterback throwing the ball and running the ball in the history of the NFL, and everybody wants to act like that this is some kind of aberration. Give the kid his props. Give credit where credit is due. He put the work in. He did what was necessary. And, yeah, he's got to do it over time. Josh Allen looked like he was going to be a bust the first 2 years. And all of a sudden he made this massive leap. So why is it so outside of the realm of possibility that Jalen Hurts can be taking steps toward being a great quarterback now? And why can't people just step out of the shadows, raise your hands, say I was wrong, and give this kid credit?
I agree that he is the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. But we also know there's a popularity element to voting for the MVP, unfortunately. And a lot of national pundits, they have their favorites. When you look at Jalen Hurts, statistically across the board, he has all the credentials you need to win the MVP. But this guy named Patrick Mahomes always has this wow factor because he rolls out. He throws a pass underhand for a dart touchdown. He did a 360 last week and throws a touch. People get caught up in all this wow factor stuff. I go back to last year. Tom Brady statistically led just about every category in the NFL. Should have won the MVP hands down. Aaron Rodgers finished number 10 in passing, 100 fewer passing attempts. Aaron Rodgers wins the MVP. See, it's a popularity contest more so than it is a production contest. And unfortunately, because there's a lot of people on the outside looking in who don't like Philadelphia, for whatever the case may be, it might cost this kid when he's having an MVP season.
Well, I will spend the rest of the season into the offseason, leading all the way up until the next season, going berserk if he doesn't win this thing. I mean, unless there's some monumental collapse over the next 4 games. You understand what I'm saying? Because when you consider the MVP, what does it mean? It's most valuable player. Most valuable player to who? Most valuable player to your team, and it's also team success. The Eagles are 12-1. They're going to go 13-1 today, okay? Jalen Hurts has thrown for over 20-plus touchdowns, 22 to be exact. He's rushed, okay, for 10 touchdowns. And the season, he's got 4 more games to add to those stats. And then the question you have to ask yourself, are the Eagles 12-1 if they don't have Jalen Hurts at the helm? See, the comment that Chris Sims made was so asinine to me that it didn't matter. Oh, you could put Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew ain't running this damn offense.
Right.
Okay? Gardner Minshew is not running for 10 touchdowns. So you kind of, when you make statements like that, it's the hate that oozes out of you, okay? Because you know it's a lie, because you're not looking at the total picture. To D. Gunn's point, he's looking at it from the standpoint that, he's not the popular choice. It's not about the popular choice. Let's look at the numbers, and let's look at what he means to this team and this roster. And if the Eagles go to the Super Bowl, he's going to look even stupider, because you know what? Jalen Hurts is one of the main reasons why. Why is it that the quarterback position could be the most important position on every damn roster except for the Philadelphia Eagles right now?
Exactly.
We want to talk about the offensive line.
Yep.
We want to talk about the running backs. We want to talk about the wide receivers. Man, I'm so sick and tired of the national media, man, I don't know what to do. I wish they would bring me on ESPN so I can roast all of their asses.
Well, and I'll tell you, and I agree with everything you said, and it's fine points. But I think the best thing that you said right there was about Josh Allen. If you go into last year, people were comparing, myself included, Josh Allen's first year as a starter, full-time with the Buffalo Bills, the same way they were talking about Jalen Hurts, just in terms of the numbers. If you just said quarterback A, quarterback B, you go, oh, wow, interesting, these guys. But the minute you put their names on it, well, Jalen Hurts will never be Josh Allen. He might win an MVP trophy before Josh Allen does out there in Buffalo. But a lot of people are going to have to eat their words, and I don't just think it's media members. Let's not act like for a second here that Jalen Hurts was a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. He was a second-round pick. So there's a lot of coaches and scouts that were wrong about him too.
They will not eat their words.
No.
Okay? And my biggest issue is they continue to change the narrative, okay? It's almost like the moving of the goalposts, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay? Here's the standard. Okay, it applies for this guy, and that guy. Oh, it's Jalen Hurts. Let's move the goalposts over here. And then you want to make the comparisons. Okay, if you take Yeah, Patrick Mahomes, or not even Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen, in my opinion, is the only quarterback in the NFL that you take him out of his system and you put him in this system, and this system continues to thrive. Okay? Lamar Jackson is too inaccurate. Patrick Mahomes is not going to run the way that Jalen Hurts runs, so he doesn't add that element to it. You know, you can go down the list, but this you keep moving, you know, the goalposts. And I think what it is, D-Gun, and the more and more I think about it, I think that the fact that a running quarterback has never won a Super Bowl weighs heavily into this, you know, because
it happened one time. Lamar Jackson won it because he ran for over 1,000
No, I'm
yards.
talking about the Super Bowl.
Oh, Super Bowl. Okay.
The Super Bowl.
Okay.
So I think that everybody's kind of projecting out at the Super Bowl, and they're like, well, a running quarterback can't win a Super Bowl. Why can't he win a Super Bowl? Because never has been one. Okay, so until it happens, and I pray that it happens this year, then it's going to change the narrative of how the NFL and all these gurus and all these pundits actually see, you know, running quarterbacks. Because if he's a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson, yeah, until he get his throwing mechanics and his pre-snap reads and all of those things fixed, you know, he's not going to win a Super Bowl. But if you look at how Jalen Hurts is operating this offense, they are well equipped to win a Super Bowl. And once you break that mold, once you throw that away, now all of a sudden, I think you're going to see a shift in the next 5 to 10 years that if you don't look and play like Jalen Hurts, you can't play quarterback in the NFL.
And you're talking about one of the most versatile quarterbacks we have seen in quite some time, from everything that he's doing well, being one of the best running quarterbacks, obviously, in the NFL, to now being the #1 rated passer in the NFL as well. And when I hear criticism thrown the direction of Jalen Hurts, whether it's Chris Sims or whether it's a guy like Micah Parsons, they all talk about a system and they talk about the team and all that. When I think about the Philadelphia Eagles, this brand of football, I think about a great team and a great system, but the on switch to that well-oiled machine and system is named Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And that's what I look forward to seeing on full display today. And Gunnar, to your point earlier, I can't wait to see that fourth quarter because I am hoping you see him sit on the sidelines, feet up, scowl on his face as to why he's not in the game, focusing now on the next game at hand while the other guys are just enjoying what should be a very good victory by the Philadelphia Eagles today. But going back to this, when you talk about most impressive thing, there are other things you could look at in this, and it's really something that's not measured by stats, but it's just measured in wins and losses, and that comes down to the focus and overall mindset and mentality of this team. I think Jalen Hurts is a 24-year-old, now in his second year as a starting quarterback in the NFL, second-round pick, has come in to this locker room and immediately made himself a leader. Now, true, winning certainly helps that along.
Absolutely.
If you're winning with his play, and how well he's playing certainly helps that around. But one of the things that I think separates him from a lot of people, other than just statistics, this guy's mindset, work ethic, and overall smarts that he brings into this locker room, I think sets the tone for this team.
He doesn't care what you on the outside looking in thinks of him. He goes about his work the same way, and all he does is produce. And you say, all you naysayers say what you want to say, but you can't take away the fact that I'm still productive. He's not going to get caught up in jaw-jacking back and forth with the media, another player around the NFL. His productivity will speak for itself when the dust all settles. That's the one thing I think is the most impressive about this young man at 24 is how mature he is, how far beyond his age that he really is in terms of maturity. And the other players, especially the older players like the Kelceys and Lane Johnsons, they gravitate towards that. They notice that. You know, that's why they follow this kid anywhere, you know, because of how he conducts himself. You think about how many other young players across the league are doing stupid things. You won't see Jalen Hurts doing that stuff because of the way he was raised, because of the way he plays the game, because of how he handles his business. He is the perfect poster boy for this Eagles organization, or poster man, I should say, for this Eagles organization.
That's poster man.
Poster man for this Eagles organization. He is everything this organization wants him to be as a leader, as a stand-up guy, clean-cut, all-American young man.
Guys, listen, when he took over for Carson Wentz, I said right then and there, I'm like, Jalen Hurts is built for Philadelphia. He is the perfect type of quarterback for Philadelphia. Now, we'd like for him to be a a little more insightful, in his pressers, to kind of talk to us, a little more in depth about football. That's been, my only issue with him ever since, he got here. But he's thick-skinned. He goes to work. He grinds it out. He doesn't complain. If that's not Philadelphia, I don't know what is, And he embodies and he wraps his arms around, the fans of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a tough place to play. Philadelphia is not for everybody, Philadelphia was not for Carson Wentz, because Carson Wentz was not psychologically, built to play in Philadelphia, because the rabbit antennas were up at all times. So when you look at Jalen, and I give a lot of credit to his dad. Everyone wants to talk about Nick Saban, and sprinkling a little bit of Lincoln Riley. But I think I read somewhere where his dad was supposed to come to a game and his high school team had practice, and he was like, "No, I'm not going to be able to make it." Come on, man. That kind of stuff rubs off. When you've got that kind of influence around you, and then you hear he's the first in the building, the last to leave. He eats and sleeps and drinks and eats, and dreams football all the time. All of those things, that started, in youth football when his dad was bringing him up in the game and teaching him how to psychologically, approach the game. And then you got Nick Saban, who had him for 3 years, that piled a little bit on. And then the influence of Lincoln Riley that piled a little bit on. So he's mature way beyond his years, man.
Mm-hmm. They even talked about that in his musical selections. He likes some of the old school stuff.
Oh, yeah.
When people try to talk music with him, he's talking about stuff from 20-some years ago.
Oh, yeah. He's not going to give you anything more than he has to give you. He is not going to give you any bulletin board material to use against him, whether it's generic or it's pertaining to an upcoming opponent. That's how he handles his business. A lot of people don't like that because they want to know everything and anything about you. That's not what he's going to present to you. You can be frustrated as all you want, but he's going to keep you at a certain distance. And I like the fact that he doesn't put all of his business out there.
Mm-hmm. You know what? This is the moment I really liked his mindset. I mean, I was impressed with what he had been able to do on the football field and all that. But when things were being talked about with Deshaun Watson, back when the trade talk was swirling about Deshaun Watson, when there was possible trade talk, can you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, even this past combine, people talking about potentially Russell Wilson coming to the Philadelphia Eagles. This man stayed even-keeled the entire time, Jalen Hurts, and he just consistently said each time, I'm above it all. I'm above it all, and I'm going to keep on working.
Well, there's one or two approaches you can have. You can have your rabbit ears up, you can get in your feelings, and allow you to affect the work that you have to do. Or, you can use it as fuel. If you use that kind of energy in the proper way, it can be a massive amount of fuel. So, listen, this kid's been doubted his entire career. He goes to Alabama as purely a running quarterback, He loses his job at Alabama, and actually stays. One of the reasons he loses his job is because he's an inefficient passer. Then all of a sudden, he goes to Oklahoma and puts up, numbers that was worthy of, coming in second in the Heisman ballot. And when you really look at his numbers, I mean, if Joe Burrow doesn't do what he does, I mean, he runs away with the Heisman that year. But I think that players like Jalen, who are consistently doubted and overlooked and looked down upon, they take all of that stuff and they internalize it and they use it, to prove people wrong. He ain't like me. When people doubted me, I was quick to tell them, "Oh, you messed up." Jalen is different, man. Jalen will, when he proves you wrong, he just goes about his business, and it's all about just what can I prove you wrong on next? If you think that he hadn't heard what Micah Parsons said, when he had Micah Parsons in conflict for a whole half, do I take the tight end? Do I take the quarterback? Do I take the quarterback? Do I take the tight end? For a whole half of football. And he had the audacity to sit up there and talk about it's the system? Man, please.
Now, we've been talking – I think we've tipped all our hands so far on the show. We'll get to our official predictions in just a second. But before our last break, I did talk about, is there a way that the Eagles lose this game? And whenever I get to this part of the other side of the football, which is the other team gets paid too, I think about those quicksand games, if you will. When you talk about games like the Washington Commanders, where no matter what you did in that game, it just seemed like you were snake bit, you were going to lose that game. And you've heard trap game, you've heard things about letdown games. I refer to these games as snake in the grass game. Don't get snake bit. If you have a mistake in the early goings of this game, whether it's a bad turnover or too many false start penalties, as we've seen, don't let it spiral out of control. If things do happen in this game, Gunnar, where the Eagles need to be in a position to start to right the ship or come out and really turn it on in the second half, how confident are you they'll be able to right that ship against such a far inferior talent-wise opponent and you won't beat yourself?
Well, we've seen them do it a number of times. They did it in a comeback mode against the Colts. I'm not worried about this team being able to, if they come out of the gate sluggish, they have the ability on both sides of the football to turn it on and turn it off at the drop of a hat. So I think if they do play down to Chicago's level, there's going to come a point where they're going to look and say, you know what, okay, enough of this mess. You know, they don't have anything over here. What are we doing here? Let's just put them away, get our frontline guys out of here so we rest them up because of the short week. I don't see how the Chicago Bears can win this game, and I don't disrespect any opponent. I don't see, with the two leading receivers, the number 2 running back, I don't see how the Chicago Bears win this game.
I see your notes. There's a lot. Like, you just can't come up with an idea, and I'm with you.
No.
I'm with you. So if they do fall into that kind of snake bit mentality, more or less, going into this game, or at least in the early goings of this game, how do they right the ship?
Well, I think the only thing for them that's insurmountable, are turnovers. When you start turning the ball over like they did in the Washington game, it's hard to overcome that. There was a confluence of things, that happened in that game that caused not only the turnovers, because when you turn the ball over, more than 2 times in a game, the percentage of you being able to win that game go down dramatically.
Yep.
But then at the other end of the spectrum, you had, the special teams that was giving up so much real estate and field position. The defense was always in this field position battle that didn't bode well for them. So I think, in my opinion, I think the special teams has been rectified to a certain extent. I think the only thing that could derail this football team today is a plethora of turnovers. 4 to 5 turnovers is literally, in my opinion, the only thing that I can see getting in the way between the Eagles winning this game. Other than that, this should be a runaway.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start off right there with our official predictions. Earlier we heard from John McMullen, 31-15, Eagles winning this game. Seth, what do you have this week?
I got another balanced attack, because I think that, this Chicago Bears offense and defense, they look just like, the Giants. The Giants are probably a step above. They even rank similarly, as far as, against the pass and run in both respects. Like I said, last week the Eagles came out and they threw the ball 22 times in the first half. They ran it 9 times. They come out in the second half, they absolutely flip it, and they run it 22 times and throw it 9 times total in the second half. Now, if you don't think that messes with defensive coordinators' minds, you're 100% wrong, because they don't know what the hell the game plan for. So I just don't see. There's no way the Eagles lose this game. Not even close. I got them winning this game 42-13.
42-13, absolute domination by the Birds. Gunnar, what do you got?
I just hope we don't see the Eagles get bored into complacency because of a lack of competition on the field, to be quite honest.
I never disrespect another opponent.
No.
They'll be bored.
They'll be bored. Bored after 3 quarters. Okay, I'm tired of this, coach. Can I have the rest of the game off? There's no way Chicago wins this game. You always talk about any given Sunday. Not in this game. No, not in this game.
Not this Sunday.
No, not this game. No. You'd have to fall off a cliff to lose this game to Chicago. So with that said, I have the Eagles 35, Bears 14.
35-14. Look at you and me, man.
Yeah.
I'm 35-20 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game over the Chicago Bears. By the way, of course, tonight, Sunday night game, 8:20 kickoff, Giants at Commanders. Hey, maybe they'll tie again. That'll be fun, and we can all point and laugh. Thanks for watching the JAKIB Media pregame show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, as well as 6ABC.com.
Did you almost say shoe?
I almost did.
That's going way back now.
Shoe.
It's been a really good shoe.
Ed Sullivan? Are you going Ed Sullivan?
Ed Sullivan.
Yeah. Why you look at me like I don't know that, D-Gun?
Oh, no, I know you know. I know you know.
The question is, how the hell do I know it? No, all right, anyway. Guys, thanks so much for tuning into the program today. Make sure you guys are along.
Thank you, really.
Thank you very much. The Beatles will be along in a second. Anyway, I'll be along with Devin Caney for the halftime show coming up at halftime of this broadcast, as well as John McMullen joining the show. And then, of course, it's the JAKIB Media and Pond La Hockey post-game show. Mike Missinelli leading the charge in the post-game. And everyone, enjoy Eagles taking on the Bears today.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing, the second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs, and then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
My husband hadn't missed work in 15 years. His injury required months of rehabilitation, and unfortunately, the insurance company didn't see it that way. I was working 2 jobs, but it wasn't enough. One conversation with Pond Lee Hockey changed everything. We sat down, told him our story, and they guided us through the whole workers' compensation legal process.
Pond Lee Hockey. Tell us your story.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
Celebrating the life of your loved one is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givenish. When the matriarch of the Dalloway family died suddenly at 82 years old, Life Celebrations by Givenish stepped in.
They will make this the easiest thing that I know it's not easy, but they will make this as easy as possible.
Life Celebrations by Givenish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
I just know that my dad, who is in charge of everything, was not in charge of anything at that point when my mom passed. And again, just another shout out to this place for making it easy.
Turning tragedy into a celebration of life, no matter how hard, is what we do at Life Celebrations by Givenish. Life Celebrations by Givenish, customizing services as unique as the individual.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits, go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win, go to Ocean.
Continue your communication sciences and disorders education at Salus University within the Doctor of Audiology or Masters of Science in Speech-Language Pathology programs. With state-of-the-art labs, on-campus clinics, and extensive externship opportunities, students position themselves to be at the top of the job market. Stand out in the audiology and speech-language pathology profession by visiting salus.edu.